our theme speaker today. Cristina is going to join us for this amazing conversation on how Ediphi raised 1.5 million. So give me, put Cristina on stage, and this is a clap for you, Cristina. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
It's a really pleasure for me, Cristina, to have you here, and it's a really, it was a desire for me to share this conversation with you before. So I'm really excited to be here. And I'm going to start asking, from my perspective, the most important question. How your journey started in the past? How was your decided to be an entrepreneur, identify a real world problem inside the market or for any community? How was your story look like?
Well, first, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much to Joaquin and Singular for having me here. So again, I'm Cristina. I'm the founder and CEO of Ediphi, and truly, I guess the story of Ediphi starts back in the Philippines in 2018, when my husband and I opened 3 restaurants. We're both hospitality people, and very soon after we opened, we began receiving requests from local students who wanted to intern with us. And so these students were really looking for guidance on how to go to international internships, and they thought that we may be able to help them. And that prompted us to launch a small consultancy to guide them on that journey. So obviously product, our market really led us to starting on that journey. But as we all know, everything changed in 2020 when the world went virtual. And schools in the Philippines shifted to online for over a year. So our university partners needed a way to give students on-the-job training hours, even though there were no physical internships available and students were not allowed to travel. And this was about the time that I started seeing my kids play with VR games at home. And that sparked this idea of, if VR can simulate entire worlds for gaming, why not hospitality training? So as a multilingual tool, it could help students overcome language barriers, and the immersive experiences would let them practice real-life scenarios. So we got to work on a VR demo. That was our very first MVP. And it was really nerve-wracking to showcase something so unpolished, the famous sharing your ugly baby to gather just feedback. And the response really surprised us. That was in January 2023 when we launched that. And our early partners and students found it super exciting and asked when more features would be available. That's when we knew that we had something. And for those early demos, we just kept refining the VR experience, ensuring that it was intuitive, hands-on, and capable of scaling. But really, it was never enough because it just lived on the headset and it was hard to gather data. And that's when we met Singular. And that's actually when we were also fundraising. And that's where all of this got unlocked, because then with Singular, we were able to evolve into this full-fledged platform with subscription models, with AI-driven features. And now we were able to sell to universities who are dedicating entire rooms to Ediphi's VR labs, and students can track their progress in real time. It's really the success of that vision that fueled our growth and culminated in the raise, right? But really, it was that ability to work with Singular and creating this platform to better tell the story of what we were building in order for us to get both clients and investors.
I divided the questions in 3 categories. The first one is going to be related to product validation and the market validation process. The second one is going to be related to the fundraising strategy. So we really want to know your secrets to have and let the people know a couple of ideas to start refining their funding strategy. And the third one is going to be a couple of advices you can share with the audience and with the founders are watching on and they are with us on this session to provide them quick insights and quick inputs to start working and improving their strategies from the beginning.
Sure. Design thinking really forced us to see the world through our clients' eyes and mapping out those pain points, like time constraints, language barriers, the need for hands-on learning. That really informed what we were going to build and how we should build it. And of course, coupled with clear OKRs, really ensured that every prototype and each update that we created was tied to these specific metrics, right? Like improving engagement rates or reducing onboarding time. This is interesting for us because we have actually a few different milestones. So I'll share them with you. Very early on, when that very first switch happened, because we were forced to go virtual and do on-the-job training, growing in 1 year from 7 students to 450 within the same year to 6,000 in 2 years, with products that we just kind of put together and pasted them together, that showed us that there was something there. The next milestone was when we built that first VR prototype. It was really a game changer because we had never been in that space and we really didn't know what to expect. It was quite funny now that I look back on it. But as we were going through, it was really rough, right? And it's hard to show your ugly baby to people and ask for feedback. But then that last turning point of where we really unlocked a key side of things is when we started working with Singular and we launched our platform. Because at that point, we were no longer just sort of a side training tool. We're now a full LMS platform that allows students and universities to see the data analytics and the impact of what we're doing. And so once we started to show that, that really unlocked a lot more doors and possibilities and opportunities. So, yep, I guess a few different milestones there. Sure. For us, it's always been releasing functional MVPs before they're fully polished, and that allowing that product to gather immediate feedback, which allows us in turn to pivot really quickly and keep that momentum going and really high and get that sort of loop going of the feedback so that we're always developing towards client needs. In terms of the fundraising strategy and the fundraising process, it's important to be really informed, right? Knowing at what stage company you are, what metrics investors are looking at for that type of stage company and in the vertical that you're in. And is your ask within that range? That's one. Two, finding investors that are within the thesis of that vertical. And three, making sure that you're reaching investors who are in the right cycle in their fund so that they are writing checks. And of course, last but not least, getting warm introductions. Those are really, really valuable in opening doors and not ending up in spam folders. But after all of that tactical stuff, there's really other things, right? For us, it meant aligning our story around this large underserved market. Like you said, hospitality and education, that's not something that a lot of people really tackle. So investors needed to be able to see the potential in what we were saying Imagine I was saying, I'm going to use VR to train people in hospitality. That doesn't always come across as actually meaningful, right? Or that it's going to work. So we had to work to show them, well, but look at what we've already done and look at the excitement around it. So what we did was we backed our pitch with real adoption data, the growth from 7 to 6,000, and then moving forward, the adoption of the VR. And then our ask was always tied directly to our roadmap milestones, right? Let's say expanding our VR library, building AI-driven features, onboarding more universities onto the platform. What would each dollar do, and how far would it take us to our next milestone? That's really how we made sure that people understood what we were going to do with their investment. So, metrics. Obviously, the biggest ones, right? The big giants are always going to be revenue and users. How much revenue have you gotten? What's your ARR? What's your MRR? What's your trailing 12 months? And how many users do you have? That, at the very end of the day, truly shows that people are willing to use your product and pay for it. Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. For us, it ended up being always go where the data leads us, right? Our transition from consulting to VR is definitely not the usual, but it also wasn't random, right? As random as it was, it really wasn't. It was basically because of the response to the student growth that we had and the demand that we saw for what we were doing. It was just, how were we going to do it in a larger scale? So for us, constantly allowing the customer to lead us to the next step and using data to really measure the metrics that mattered. Yeah, I think that's really it, right? Building towards tangible results, things that you can measure, so that then you can show your growth and that you're building towards something. And showing how sticky your product is. It all goes back to that, right? How has your revenue increased? Sometimes it takes longer for a startup to get revenue. So then let's find a different metric. What is a good metric? Maybe it's how many pilots have I found? How many users do we have? Or maybe it's time in the app using the product. Any of those things, just showing how that has grown. Right? I think, it all goes back to how the sprints are structured, right? And that the approach around the sprints and making sure that each and every story point in each sprint was defined. This really kept us from getting bogged down on overdevelopment. We'd be able to prototype, then go straight into testing with our clients, gather that feedback, and then reiterate again. So that kept us really going. And that agility is really crucial in being able to pivot, right? Because obviously not everything works at the very first time. Actually, it's quite rare. So being able to pivot quickly and react to what's happening once you deploy your ugly baby is really important. And Singular's approach to it through the sprints allows you to be really agile.
Before to wrap up, I'm gonna thrill to share an exclusive opportunity with all of you. We are, proposing a grant to you for a 2-week engagement with a dedicated AI-powered product team, focusing with you on a hands-on session on a rapidly bringing your vision to life in this amazing 2 weeks engagement. If you scan the QR code you are going to be accessing to a quick form to leave your information. And after sending the information, you are going to be participating in this contest in order to access to this 2-week engagement. We are going to be, deep in dive with you inside your AI strategy. If you are trying to leverage it for existing features, or if you are not having AI yet, we're going to dive into your AI strategy, start boosting your business and keep growing. I wanted to ask you the last question, and it's related obviously to AI. We talked about the innovation stuff we are proposing in our value proposition about the merging with AI and VR. But nowadays, how is the importance? What is the importance of AI in this digital transformation wave we have been, living during the last couple of years? Why people should pay attention to AI? Why people, why founders, why businesses should start integrating AI right now? Because from my perspective, if not, they are going to be out of the game. What do you think about this?
I mean, AI changes the game in so many ways, right? Productivity, cost effectiveness, all across the board. But at the end of the day, I think as founders and as leaders in our companies, really, people are always looking at us within our ability to execute, our resilience, our vision, right? And we need a tool that can help us figure all of that out as startups are changing. Our companies are constantly evolving and pivoting. Markets are shifting around us, and plans are constantly evolving. And so AI really gives us the ability to manage and analyze all this data and give us the ability to move faster and iterate quicker and plan better and see things that maybe we haven't even looked at yet.
Like, you're really a thought leader and inspiring leader to learn from. So I'm really appreciated this conversation, and I really wanted to appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and it has been an absolute pleasure working with the Singular team. So thank you so much.